Well, folks, this is Brian Weaver. I'm the VP of Sales here at NSA, and I'd like to welcome everybody for our professional services webinar number 64 with Agile Dragon. We'll be talking about the Dragon Pack with Cloudsuite distribution. Next slide.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that, Brian.
Yeah,
No
you
problem.
had one.
I had one job and I messed it up.
That's okay, no problem. So today we'll be covering what is Dragon Pack. You'll find that there's very powerful capabilities in terms of operation, audit, as well as financial. The advantages of the Birst platform and how Dragon Pack actually enhances those capabilities. Functional demonstration of these three areas, and then trailing Dragon Pack as well. Next. So that's me and my contact information. This will also be presented towards the end of the session as well, if you want to take advantage of the promotion that we're offering. And today, presenting with us is Birst Bill Payne. He's a founder of Agile Dragon Group. And Bill was actually involved with Birst before Infor's acquisition. So to say that Bill's been around the block on the Birst technology is an understatement. So Bill, we welcome you. And we also have a nice assist by our VP of Technology, Brian Jones, as well in today's session.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Yeah, no, and thank you, Brian, as well. But yeah, no, I've long time been with Birst. Started way back when it was in Silicon. Oh, sorry, NSA. You want to go over NSA real quick?
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. So those of you that may not be totally familiar with NSA, I'll kind of go through this quickly. We've been in this space since 1984. We were the first reseller in the space, so we've been around the longest. And we have what we call our NSA Touch, which is our personal commitment to the success of our clients. And ERP distribution with SXC and Cloudsuite is our focus. All of our clients are distributors, so we know that market extremely well. And we have a very strong team of consultants with an average of 15 plus, some as many as 22 plus years in the space.
Cool. And
then Agile Dragon was founded in 2012. Top Birst practitioners. The primary focus is on Cloudsuite, which of course we know the world is moving to in the Infor world. And they are the creators of Dragon Pack and the curators of the Dragon Den. So we're very excited. Bill, thank you so much for taking the time today, and Brian as well. Take it away.
Thank you. Yep. And like Brian mentioned, my team has probably about 50 years of experience implementing Birst full development lifecycle. We've been focusing in CSD for about the past 4 years. So a lot of the things we're going to look at today have kind of evolved from those customer engagements, as well as us just looking at places where we can apply the Birst licensing that you already own effectively. Okay, so we're going to start with going over some of the advantages of the Birst platform. I like starting here because even though everyone owns it, we get a lot of questions. And I think it's also very good to set the stage for where the Dragon Pack sits within the overall solution. So the first thing to remember is, and in fact, often I meet people who don't even realize this, but Birst is the standard BI solution across Infor. And Infor is much larger than just our SXE CSD world. It encompasses M3, you've heard of them, manufacturing, LN, HCM, which is big healthcare stuff and human resources, FSM, and the list just goes on and on and on. And the beauty is that they've taken Birst, and as they move all of these legacy ERP applications to the cloud, they're using the same infrastructure and the same architecture. So if you look on the right, this is basically the whole idea. The large red square, that's your general Cloudsuite. Everyone inside there has at least one ERP. Some of you have two, right? If you got ISM and CSD, you have two. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Victory. Okay. And to the left of that, we have the data lake, and everyone has a data lake. And then on top of that, everyone is provisioned a Birst
Right here.
tenant.
Right here.
So, thanks, Edward. Everyone's provisioned a Birst tenant. And within that tenant, okay, you can have support multiple Birst solutions. Okay, so everyone gets provision. When you go to CSD, you get CSD analytics. That's the standard content. Okay, as part of CSD, there are ways to extend it. So that might be adding facts or dimensions or whatever to that application. And that's what a lot of people have done in the past. We used our Birst expertise and we have built our own solutions, and that's what we are calling our subscribed content. Okay, that's our three solutions we're going to look at today. But the important thing to remember is it all sits inside your production CSD Birst tenant. Okay, and it's all accessed via the same basic infrastructure that you use to manage your mingle access, your data lake, that user security. It all spans everything that we're going to see today. Okay, so not a stitch of data is leaving. So on the left, I've got, we're saying we're secure, right? So user security is all still pretty much managed by Mingle, right? There may be some things to add, when you integrate and add people to Birst, but at the end of the day, it's all inside Cloudsuite, right? Somebody loses access to Cloudsuite, they lose access to everything. It's not like a third party where, you have a second set of administration. The data is secure, so no data leaves your Cloudsuite, but also Birst supports Cloudsuite row level security, right? So some of the things we're going to see today have been locked down at the user level, meaning that via some logic, some underlying logic, it could be as simple as my sales rep can only see orders that they have taken, or orders that are inside or outside. It can be as simple as that, or it can be my branch manager can see every order for that branch, irregardless of whether it was taken by his sales reps or somebody else's sales reps, and it's going to be mailed out. Okay, so that's row level security. It's very powerful. Application security, who sees what, and then at the end of the day, Birst is integrated from a visualization point of view, so we can actually build widgets with Birst, as well as we can drill back to the ERP. You're going to see that today, and then we can also, we've started to work in and build out workspaces. Okay, so to date, Infor has added and given CSD folks a couple of workspaces, one for the buyer, one for the sales rep. I'm not 100% up on exactly what's going on. Brian knows that better than me, but we can duplicate a lot of that capability with a bit more functionality, often specific to managing who can see what, and then, simplifying and making lists of more stuff a little bit easier. Okay, any questions? And at the end of the day, in CSD, everyone owns Birst. Okay, I found one customer who claims that they don't, and that, but everyone owns Birst, and everything you're going to see today does not require enterprise. It only requires Infor analytics. So nothing today requires additional investment of anyone. Okay. All right. Next. Oh, that's the wrong way. Okay, next. And so, we're not just vaporware. We've got a whole set of people who have our current subscribers. We've got 20 right now. You can see some names you recognize up there. Bolt is big on working with us around, they've got some security auditing they need to do, as well as some change auditing, because I believe they're public. I don't know that much, but I know that they're using our auditing to help with that reporting. OTC is working with us specifically around managing and charting out what changes are happening in their master data. A little bit easier than using Audit Manager right now. And then, others are helping where you're working on more operational solutions for them as well. Okay. All of these things today are installed with no services. And right now, Dragon Pack is the top rated product on the Infor marketplace, which, hey, that's pretty cool. Globally. Okay. All right. So audit. Audit is our way to really manage and understand what changes. And when you move from SXE to CSD, auditing became a little more difficult. Brian's going to help me out with that. Brian, are you ready to hop in?
Yeah, I can show you. I can show you a bit of auditing. So I'm gonna take over the share here.
Yep.
If any of you were at Tug in May, I did a session on auditing. I did a session on CSD auditing, and then I included some of the Dragon Pack auditing. If I were to go in Cloudsuite distribution, it has they added in the April release basic auditing. I can go to a table. I can request some information, and this is what the data comes back and looks like. I can click on it. I can see, okay, there was a field changed and a bunch of techie gobbledygook as to what might have changed the field. I can't really do reporting out of this. I can't drill into things. I can't really see where and why. But I can with Agile Dragon Audit. Agile Dragon saw a need for auditing that didn't exist again prior to some of the April stuff in CSD and expanded on it greatly. So again, as Bill said, it's part of Birst. So this is the back end of this is Birst. It is reading data out of the data lake, which is all again natural to Cloudsuite. And it's populated and updated as transactions happen in CSD. That updates the data lake. The default on the audit is it does update its data nightly. There is a button that's available here if you wanted to go, hey, update the audit at this very moment in time. It allows that to happen. So if I wanted to go, see, hey, what's going on right now with my current data in the data lake, or often, a day after is good enough. Audit is broken into various functions. Catalogs, customers, orders, products, purchases, vendors, security transfers. If let's use orders as an example. Say I want to look at what happened or what changes were done to an order. Maybe somebody approved an order and I want to see who did that approval. If I just open the screen, it brings up it's got a date range, so it squeezes the data a little bit. If I were to take off the date range, it would go back to the beginning of time in my data lake. But let's use an example of, hey, I know an order number. I want to see what was done with that order. So I'm going to click on my order. I'm going to start typing in my order. And again, this is standard Birst stuff. 1036 878. There's an order. Click it, apply. It filters based off of that order. And if I just leave the defaults, what it does is it shows me everything that Dragon Pack Audit is looking at with this order. It's also it's looking at both the order header and the order lines. And the data that it's looking at is under the order changes here. We've chosen the most common things that people ask for. And again, we can certainly expand on this if you have a need. But this is out of the box default functionality. So right now for this order, I see all of these changes. And right now I also see the current value. So this new tells me this is the new value, and this is the value that it's set for. If I wanted to see changes, I've got a drop down here that says changed. I simply select it, click apply. And here with this order, I see there were two different changes done to the header. I see, okay, the approval was set to a yes. It used to be a no, and it was set on this date. And Paul was the person who did the approval. Audit also has a very cool function in that they do explain in like common English what the fields mean and what's being changed. Where again, if I flip back into audit here, you don't know what you don't know what this means. But back in Dragon Pack, they do a very good job of describing things. The other cool thing about this is they have implemented drillbacks into the software. So I simply click on the order number here, and it's going to flip me right back into CSD in an order inquiry right for that order. So I can go do my research without having to flip around to a different screen. I go back into audit, maybe I do a different search, and away I go. And again, this is just order information. If I go back, another common one, I'll just do another quick little example, and I'll turn it back to Bill here. Another quick example is user security. I want to know, for example, when the last, so I saw Paul made the change to that order. I want to know the last time Paul logged into my system. Or maybe I want to know, hey, is Paul's security changing or something like that? Again, if I just open it wide up, it looks at the SASO records, it looks at the PV user, which are kind of user settings, and it looks at all the security records, and it brings a big, long, ugly list. So typically you're going to go look for something. I've got an operator. I know his name is Paul. He uses our system a lot. So PDO2, if I click apply on that, it's going to go show me all of the records from Paul. Now, again, I've got a date range here. I know my data is older than August, so I'm just going to go back in time a little bit. I know it's from June. So if I go June here, or better yet, if I just take off the filter, this is all of the data that's related to Paul. It's the SASO record, it's the PV user, it's all the security, all that kind of stuff. I can, because it's Birst, I can export this if I want to. I can have it create a notification. I can make it email me when something happens. Or again, I can just look at it on the screen. But back to my example here, I want to know when Paul last logged in. So I'm going to go changed. I could certainly find the transaction process, find last login. I'm going to go changed, and I'm going to select the current record. So this is the last record that's changed and the current value of it. And we'll see that. We'll build that out. And again, bad example here because I want to do a SASO. Apply. All right. So here are the SASO records. So I can see, again, I could have just gone and searched by user security changes and picked last login date, but I see Paul last logged into the system on the 18th of this month. And again, some other things that had changed with Paul over time here. Paul changed his alternate login on 7/18. Paul changed allow to maintain ICSW from false to true on 7/11, all that kind of stuff. And again, I can export this. And again, if there was a hyperlink in here, there isn't so much on the security part, but if there's a hyperlink, I could click on it and it would flip it right back into CSD. So that's the gist of audit. Good, Bill?
Yep.
Questions?
No, thank you very much, Brian. And yeah, we've had a couple of customers specifically come to us just because of audit. At the end of the day, if you're a public company or you really have some rules that your auditors are waiting for you to follow, it simplifies that a whole heck of a lot. And you notice that. Oh, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I was going to say, and there's really no install of it.
Yeah.
It's they push a button, it's there. You give permission to the people that you want to have permission to go into it. It uses the data in the data lake. It does not use your CSD analytics space.
Mm-hmm.
So it pulls it directly out of the data lake itself. And again, if I say anything wrong here, Bill, tell me. But
No.
so it's not reliant on that CSD analytics working correctly or not. And again, the install takes, it takes literally minutes. So
yeah, well, and the hardest thing about audit is the simple fact that for those objects that you're looking at, in order to get you the data that we were looking at, we have to look at every version change of that. So there can be a bit of a load time required, because guess what? We have to look at every order and every order change. But we've built a process that enables us to load it incrementally, enables us to load chunks at a time. So, it's really, really very user friendly. And like Brian was saying, it's totally separate from your CSD analytics. So it's totally separate. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you use a third party for doing analytics, or if you're a MITS user, or you're a Focus user. Guess what? Doesn't matter. We're going directly from the data lake. It's not going to interfere technically with any of that. And then if you think about, it's going to sit in, I'm going to log in directly real quick so I can show you how that works. Okay, this isn't, give me just a second. I apologize.
Yeah, and I'll say because it's also integrated into the system, it doesn't count against those external reads and writes against your Cloudsuite. The Infor OS, you may have gotten notifications from Infor, hey, you're exceeding your Compass queries or your whatever. This is all inside of Cloudsuite.
Cool.
So that's important.
Yes. And since it's an application, your people will either get to it, right? So it's all, like I said, it's all inside here. So if I go in here, I'm going to go to the same place Brian was, right? And it's that easy for people to get to. Okay. So any questions there real quick? I mean, that's kind of a big, that's a big kind of thing. If not, that's fine. We can move on to our next application. Okay. So inside of our subscription, the next thing we're going to look at is operations. Oh boy. Okay. Operation. Okay. So operational reporting. Over time, a lot of people have said there's not a great way to do operational reporting in CSD. A lot of times what they mean is that, maybe the data is hard to get to, or maybe it's hard to get that particular list report, right? That people really want to know. Who are my open orders? Who are my customers, who have issues, purchases, etc. So what we did was we built our own solution in the Dragon Pack. Okay, I'm going to close this down. And it's called Operations. Okay, and within Dragon Pack Operations, we have a good bit of the data. It's really a companion to CSD Analytics. Once again, it's entirely separate. Okay, but within it, we can report off sales. We can report off inventory, purchasing, AR, AP. We have transfers. With a lot of our customers, this ends up being a bit more not built to suit, but configured, because all of you have come from SXE or FAX or A+, and you've got a business that's expecting certain reporting. And this is what we've built as Birst experts to kind of support it. Okay. So even if there's something that's not here, the general model was kind of built in a way that we feel is very easy to support and very easy to extend. Okay. And a good example of that, I'll show you a couple real quick. We don't need to go too deep, but I think it's pretty easy to kind of see the value. So we're going to go in accounting, and accounting, the top page is going to pull up, and this is our AR aging report. And I bring this up because literally every customer I talk to, the finance folks come in and go, do you have an AR aging report? We're like, well, yeah, we have an AR aging report, and here it is. But the request is often that, I need to have things in my bucket, right? And I need to have my certain capabilities. And this is just a simple Birst, report. That's the other great thing about the Dragon Pack. All of the tools and capabilities that we use to build it are in here, and all of them therefore are licensed by you. Okay, so if you look right here, I'll show you something real quick and easy. You notice that 6190 and 3160, that's out of order, right? That's a bad idea. So honestly, and as simple as you want to update this and change that order. Hey, there we go. We're going to save it. And now my dashboard is back to being, in the proper order. But at the end of the day, not every tool out there can support this simplicity of modification. Okay. And this simplicity of modification is the licensing you own. Okay. We're not doing anything magic. The other cool thing is we've got within Birst, we've got something. So Aretha Franklin, we're going to see what she's been up to with Walton Distribution. I didn't know she was having such a hard time. I figured she'd be retired by now, but okay. And we click there and we go in and we can actually, within Birst, you've seen it probably in CSD Analytics, very easy to drill from that detail down to, or drill from that summary down to that detail. Okay. Another area I wanted to take a look at real quick, sales. So sales, once again, simple combination of KPIs at the top. We can actually support, many visualizations here. These can be out of the box. This is out of the box, but if you want something that looks a little different, easy peasy. And then if we need to, add some cross sections in how you look at things. So right now we're looking at things by warehouse, but if we click here, we can look at them by sales rep, or we can look at them by division, or we can look at them monthly, right? At the end of the day, this is some easy functionality that we've seen in other tools that I just wanted to make sure you understood was available in Birst and therefore available in Dragon Pack. Okay. That's a quick overview of operations. At the end of the day, if the data's in the data lake, we can get to it and we can leverage it. Okay. Not hard. Okay. Any questions there real quick before I move on? I got something else cool and whiz bang coming up next. All right. I don't see any questions, so that's great. Okay. Now, one of the other things that we can do, we mentioned before, and Brian mentioned a little bit before, that we've started to work on kind of workspaces. So this is that type of idea. We're working with a customer of ours. They really like the idea of the sales and services workspace or buyer workspace, right? That they've gotten provisioned. Okay. The issue they have is they're a very large customer and they have unique security needs that aren't easy to support with the way that security's been configured. So, for example, in the sales dashboard, the view of orders is limited actually to the rep who took them and their manager. Okay. And then above that, they're being told they need to, really start working with Mongoose to create an application to kind of manage that data access. Okay. What we can do in Birst it gives us the unique capability of really making some very powerful row level security rules that basically allow us to create a set of rules around what any user can see. Okay. And this can be managed through a spreadsheet. This can be managed through code. This could be generated. We've got one customer where we're actually pulling information out of SASU in order to match reps up with appropriate information. Okay. But as soon as we set that individual, then when that individual logs into this screen, they will only see what they're allowed to see. Okay. So what that means is, your rep can see what they need, your manager can see what they need, but guess what? The branch manager can see what they need, or the regional manager can see across their branches. And at the end of the day, since it's managed separately, it means this dashboard doesn't need to change for anyone. Okay. When I ask it a question, is Bill paying? Birst knows it's Bill paying because that's the user ID that I'm using. And then it adds that filtering onto whatever I see. Okay. It makes things very efficient and very powerful. It's been a long time Birst capability and it's really, really cool. So if you look at this, basically that's what we're seeing. It's kind of hard to demonstrate that. It's kind of like, oh, you can't see. But at the end of the day, that's what we're looking at here. Then also we've added in, if you click on one of these buttons, it allows us to drive changes to the underlying reports, right? So this is operating very much like that workspace. So now I can click here, I can see my open orders. I can click here, I can see my picked orders, okay? But at the end of the day, as a end user, and our customer is really hoping to get this into a number of users in their organization, because it's going to help them focus directly into on what is important, right? We're building those lists that tell us what we need to do, okay? And the great thing is when you combine that with, clicking Walton distribution, oh, yep, takes me right in. Well, let me try it again. Sorry about that. When I clicked that, I forgot to sign in. You have to be signed into CSD, something to remember, but it takes me right into Walton distribution. Okay, so now if we can think about what list really helps me identify those points of action, we can actually use, notice we've got two links going on here. Do I need to go to the customer and resolve something? Or do I need to go to the order and resolve something, right? At the end of the day, you may have, a number of things in this list that allow your people to come here as a single point, triage what the heck they need to do, and go right out. Okay, without having to cut and paste and add. I need to take this order from this report, cut it, add it over here, go to my inquiry machine. No. And you own all of this. Okay, so once again, just an application of the underlying Birst licensing you own. Okay, so any questions about operations? We are really starting to build these out. And we're looking for more and more informations and places that it's going to drive value for customers. Okay, we know Birst, but we're still learning distribution. And Brian's been very helpful, and the other Brian's been very helpful too. Any questions real quick before I go to financials? No. All right.
Nope.
You guys are quiet. All right. So the final application we're going to look at, okay, is financials. Okay. So financials is basically our solution for customers who are looking to move their financials to Birst. And a number of folks are looking to move off F9. Okay, we're actually helping a customer right now with that. And the reasons are pretty simple. At the end of the day, they're looking for something, and I'll just say what, they're getting away from, right? So currently, when the books close at the end of the month, they don't want to have to call IT to say, run the report, okay? And they do that like, every month when they close, they got to do that 4 or 5 times before they get the numbers right. They want to be able to have that on their own. They want it to be secure. IT doesn't want to have to manage that server, because right now that server kind of sits out there and it's another piece of care and feeding they have to do. And it's a pain, okay? And then the last thing is really the security it gives, that they can move all that data, keep all that inside of Birst. Now, I'm not going to tell you that every financial department is dying for this, because at the end of the day, some of them really like their spreadsheets. But the ones that, are looking to simplify their lives are really starting to grab on. I'm going to show you 2 things in here specifically that we do. But at the end of the day, it's a really pretty easy install to get some basic functionality out. And then we can work with either designer reports or visualizer reports, or even our Dragon Grid, to give people some prettier stuff, and get them exactly what they need. Okay, but it's not all just straight out of the box. I'll be, I don't want you to think that, but it's darn close. Okay, so we're going to go into financials. Okay, I'll show you 3 things. Okay, so This is financials. Once again, like the others, it's just an application, sits inside of, sorry, let me close that. I'm not sure how we broke up it. That was just the application being fun. All right. But at the end of the day, this is once again all inside Birst, installs in like an hour, populates in probably about 3 or 4. Once again, secure, same thing. We're going to start with trial balance. This isn't gorgeous, but most of our customers were actually able to, for most of them, we can get their trial balances, depending on the complexity of their financial organization, pretty much out of the box. Sometimes we have to work with them a little bit to massage to make sure that we're capturing the attribution of when the data is falling accurately. But at the end of the day, this is pretty much out of the box. And we've got standard trial balance sheet, income statements built. And then another place that we go in, it's same kind of thing. Oh, and you know what? I forgot to show you this. And remember I told you about that button? Okay, so this trigger right here is built to update your GLET at the end of the month. Okay, and anyone who's got access to this can poke that button. And what happens is it kicks off an orchestration at the back end. It pulls out that subset, an incremental set of GL transactions, and then it applies it to the GL ET within this space. Okay, so this allows your financial people to use the detailed GL to balance their books, okay, during the day before on a nightly basis, as you know, or I don't know, maybe on demand, I don't know. The GLSA is updated from time to time, okay? So the GLSA is not always, to the moment up to date. If you're updating it nightly and you're adding transactions throughout the day, it's not necessarily getting updated. Okay, so this allows us to update it as those transactions are. They can see are things falling in the right place or not. If they back something out and push it back in, they can do it, and they can do that here. Okay, but it's just this button. And right now, from one of our larger clients, we've got it timed from 2 to 5 minutes. It's really 2, but we roll it up to 5, just not to it's cool. It's very cool, and they're very excited. Okay. The second thing I'll show you is if your financial organization is using something like using the GLSB for your budgeting, okay, we've got that pretty much built out of the box. So, since the GLSB is really a photo, very similar to your GLSA, if almost not exactly the same thing, right? If you leverage the GLSB and CSD, we've built it right in. Okay, so it's not a large lift. If you want to go from a spreadsheet, we definitely can do that. It is a little more work and a little more configuration, but at the end of the day, it's really not that much. Especially if you've are using the same account numbers and periods and all that. It really isn't that hard. And then the last thing I'm going to leave you with for financials is by far the coolest part. Okay, so this right here is the thing that makes all of our controllers very interested in financials. Okay, so what you're looking at right now is a view of your general ledger. Okay, so just a simple transactional view, right? Now, there's not a lot of data in here because this is, it's a sales system, right? But at the end of the day, you can see your journal number, right? We've got every journal number in here. We've got our accounts, and we've got 678 records because we're just looking at, April of this year. Okay, but at the end of the day, this is your GL. So it's going to be a little easier to work with than your GLIA, right? And your GLIA is basically, how you pull out all those small reports when you want to append them together. So I'm going to show you a way to save a ton of time, or for your controller to save a ton of time. So this right here, this filter, if I get rid of this, you see a little modal pop up. Okay. Basically, what this is telling me is we've built a process into this that we can apply to other places in Birst, but that gets past our 50,000 record maximum. Okay. So if I click this, we're going to run what we call the BigQuery process in the background. And, I got a master's in marketing. So what's happening here is we're pulling, you can look down here, 91,000 records. Okay. This is every record in NSA's sales tenant GL. Okay. And it's in one screen. We have another customer of ours. We did this the other day, 4.5 million. Okay. Now, what does it mean to have this in the screen? Well, let's just say I want to just see account 9998 across all time. Guess what? I just filtered to 998 across all time. And that is 1,558 records. Okay. So it simplifies certain processes because let's just say I want to see all my Infor charges over the years. I can filter on Infor, go in here, pull them all. If I want to see, if I want to see an account across a ton of sub accounts or a sub account across everything, I can do that here too, right? And I can pull them all in one go. So every controller I talk to, like the light bulb goes off and they're like, oh my gosh, this gets rid of the 10 reports that I have to run at the end of each month for us to check, to track whatever that I have to put back together in Excel in order to get that final number that we move somewhere else. Right here, easy peasy. And if you look in here, you can see we've got customer names, we've got references. So you know what? If your people are good and disciplined and making sure that they're writing up their references effectively, you can look and reference something across the entirety of your GL. If you look in here, we've got, invoice number, so AP invoice number, check number, all of those things that allow you to quickly answer questions and get information out. And if you want to, you can do something as simple as, hey, look at that. I want to look at that right there. Copy with headers. We go in. We're going to do this right here. Paste, and there we go. Send that off to whoever's in charge of that expense and have them explain it, right? It's really, really very simple. And since we're leveraging Birst, once again, it goes back to all of that row level security. If I want to build out financial reports that are filtered down to a branch and only the branch manager can see all of their stuff, that's easy, and now I got branch managers looking at all their charges before the end of the month so they can figure out if something looks funky and they're like, I didn't buy that. That's the guy up the road. They're going to be able to see it, right? So at the end of the day, that's the beauty of Dragon Pack. It all lives inside Cloudsuite. It all leverages your backend Birst licensing, and it's secure and all that good stuff. Okay. And then, is that good? Time for questions? Do people have questions? I talked a lot.
Bill, this was great, and Brian as well. So thank you guys both for this. So yeah, I've got some questions here. So what is the Dragon Den?
Okay. The Dragon Den is our community. So it's our free community. If anyone is interested, any Birst customers are very welcome to come join. At the end of the day, we've got somebody who curates our knowledge, and basically we've got training and stuff in there too.
Well, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So one question we got here, which is a good one here. When do you generally start working with customers? Is it before or after go live? Can you talk about that a little bit?
So yeah, I mean, we end up doing both. I think um, we see a lot. We see a lot of customers, and they're breaking out in two places. So if customers are coming from SXE and moving to CSD, we do often work. We end up working with them after because a lot of times what happens is they have some legacy tools they want to kind of get through their go live with the ERP, which I'll be straight with you, that's some effort, right? And then, and then we pick up on the back end with the reporting. Okay. Now, sometimes customers are like, I have these 10 reports and I have to have them for go live. Okay. In those cases, we've started before. Okay. But all this stuff is built to load into a established CSD install. So it doesn't have to start at any point. Um, but we are seeing in the case where people are really migrating from something else to CSD, we're seeing more and more of that getting involved up front. Where we see SXE to CSD, a lot of times that's being pushed just because you only have so much bandwidth. And for us to throw reporting on top of it, it's just crazy. It's just a lot. Okay. Um, yeah. Brian, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So here's another good one, general question. How often do you do releases?
So that's on kind of as we release major functionality, we're doing releases. So we just did a major release for audit when we added security and products and kind of warehouse inventory. So we probably we'll do another one maybe in 2 months or so for audit. Financials, I want to say quarterly. We'll say in an average of quarterly. That doesn't mean that we don't do like dot releases continually, but at the end of the day, the big releases are really coming down to probably every 3 months or so.
All right,
And
great.
how do you go about getting those releases? It just get pushed out there? Yeah.
So,
Do
okay.
I have to
So,
install that release?
yeah, no. So at the end of the day, the way we release stuff into your account currently is we have the rights in Birst to kind of load it and install it. Okay. We are documenting that process. So we don't have to necessarily do that work. Um, and we've heard actually that Infor Marketplace is supposed to be getting to the point where they will actually assist in that provisioning as well. So that's my hope. Eventually we get to that point and then we just give it to Infor and then Infor says, okay, let's push it down. But you have to remember when we update, the best thing about Birst is really is the architecture when you think about the multi-space. So we can actually have more than one version of audit running at the same time. So you have your production version, we load your new version, you load it, you swap it when you're ready. Okay. So the goal is there's no like, you know, it's going down and we'll be up by Monday. No, we just load it in and then you look at it, you make sure you like it and you swap it. We got directions on that in the den.
Cool.
That answer your questions?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. So I got a couple questions on each of the different areas we covered. So under audit, how much service is required to install it?
So audit is nice because that's pretty much zero. Okay. At the end of the day, um, at the end of the day, it really is the same for everyone. So currently we just load it in and then we start up the process. So yeah, it's effectively zero. Okay. If you're massive and you want us to monitor it for you, it'd be a couple bucks. But it's not, but generally speaking, it's zero.
That's
Okay.
great. Okay.
Yeah.
And how does audit compare to CSD Audit Manager? That's a good question.
I think that's what Brian kind of showed, but I kind of, we had a couple of customers you heard about that were going to wait on like Infor to update Audit Manager to get more functionality. And I just don't, it's a cool tool. It's great if you're a programmer, if you know specifically what you're looking for, right, you can get to that data. The issue I see with Audit Manager is that it leverages your ERP for that auditing. So you are sucking all that data out of the data lake, you're putting it in your ERP, and any munching that you need to do has to happen to there and compete with the same resources that are running your business.
True.
And
That
exactly,
makes
and
sense.
Very true.
yeah, yeah, and nobody has enough resources these days. That's just the way it is, you know.
Yep, absolutely. So under operations, what have you seen customers focus on in the operations group?
Okay, so it almost always follows this. Sales, they all want to know how much they're selling. AR, they always want to know who owes them money, and then inventory. And we've done stuff with inventory with customers. Everyone's a little bit different, but we've gone as far, a lot of them have aging inventory they want to do, or, where that can get a little funky from customer to customer, because when you try to figure out how old your inventory is, sometimes it's not captured in the places it's supposed to be. So we often have to create like additional logic to go, oh, it's not an ICSW. Let's go to the ICET. Oh, it's not there. Okay, let's look somewhere else. So at the end of the day, it's been that. The funny thing is, 2 days ago was like the first time I heard anyone actually ask about accounts payable. Like nobody cared. Nobody cares if they owe money to people, but they really want to know if people owe them money.
How true is that, right?
Yeah.
So I've got a kind of a two-part question here for the end of operations here. So how many users can operations support, and do you have to pay for licenses for everyone that gets reports?
Okay. So this is how the general Dragon Pack works. At the end of the day, from a support or capability point of view, or like how many people can use it? At the end of it, since we're relying on Birst, there really isn't an upper end. Okay, you're really from a technical standpoint relying on Birst to provide that infrastructure. Okay, so there's some big customers out there, 3,000, 4,000. At the end of the day, it does not for us, unfortunately, yet. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. Now, from a who gets reports, once again, we take the Birst point of view that if you can put it in a notification and somebody gets that report, totally fine. Okay. There's no charge to that. We've got some customers, we're actually working with them on doing some vendor reporting that actually is going to go out to their vendors on a periodic basis, a set of emails, and there's no charge for that. The place where you do end up starting to pay from a active user point of view, you need to remember that we bill for active user, which means if a person in CSD logs into our particular, workspace or looks at one of our dashboards, we consider that an active user for the month. Okay. So the way you manage that is you only give certain people access to it. Okay. And every month we just count the number of people that is and bill you accordingly. Okay. So at the end of the day, you have the ability to say who's allowed to use it, but you only end up paying if they do use it. Okay. Which keeps us from getting into lots of wrestling matches with CIOs on how many people really are going to use the product.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yep.
Yep. So under financials, how long does it take to customize Dragon Pack financials?
That's an open question. It depends on how wild your financial group is. Okay. And it depends on what you need, right? So, we don't have an easy way to do an out of the box cash flow yet. Guess what? That doesn't actually exist, right? Everyone keeps asking for it as if like, no, it's like Ponce de Leon searching for the, fountain of youth, right? It just doesn't exist. However, since we're using Birst tools, since we have, a visualizer and designer at our disposal, it's relatively easy for us to bring in the right tool in like a day or two, you know? It's really all you need. And we've got somebody who focuses on financials. And so she, I'm a big proponent of focusing our delivery through the same resources again and again and again to make sure that we gather that learning and figure out how to simplify it for everyone.
Right, that sounds great. Yeah, and I think that's pretty much it for the questions. If we can move on to the promo, that would be great.
Yep.
So, guys, I just want to thank the folks at Agile Dragon for this very generous offer. So, this is what we've got on the table for you guys. So, if you sign up for the Dragon Pack before October 31st, so that's plenty of time to do your evaluations and everything else, you'll receive a complimentary 2-month trial subscription to any or all of the Dragon Pack solutions. And note that the trial does not cover consulting required to meet the specific company requirements. But I mean, that is an amazing offer. Can you talk to that just a little bit, Bill, in terms of, I guess, the amount of effort the clients would have to entail and kind of what the steps would be for them to take advantage?
Sure. And actually, I think we got a slide for that. Let me see. Hey, all right. So yeah, so it's really easy. Talk with Brian. He'll take you down. Let me know. We've got a trial agreement we send through DocuSign. It really just protects you, protects us. Very simple. Once that's signed, we will give you a list of credentials we need. Okay, and we have our Dragon librarian, Victoria Christensen, who's awesome, who builds all our cool content and will help us get it installed in your account. Once it's installed, we load it, and then you guys can take it for a test ride. And it will be in with your data. And that's one of the very important things. At the end of the day, auditing, pretty much out of the box. Financials, you're going to get, some good basics. You're going to see your GL, that's great. If it won't quite be there. And then operations, you'll see what we have in operations. But the great thing about operations is you can spend some time and work on building some things on top of our model. And a lot of our customers really like the way we've designed it, and the way that we've kind of created our what we call conforming dimensions and facts.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, can we quickly just advance it to my contact info? So please
sure.
reach out to me, folks, if you're interested in taking advantage of this. Love to be able to.
Well, it's there. There at the
There we
bottom.
go. Yep,
Okay.
exactly. So just email me if you're interested in taking a look at this. Love to be able to engage with you guys. And just as a final note here, as we're reaching the top of the hour, like to thank Bill Payne and Brian Jones as well for assisting here with the presentation of Agile Dragon and the Dragon Pack. We're excited about this solution, folks, and it really allows you to optimize what you've got in Birst, and it makes it a whole lot easier to use. We will be sending out a copy of the recording of this. Should be out within the next 24 hours or so for everybody, along with this promo, once again, as a reminder. So please take advantage. And I'd like to thank everybody attending for taking the time out of your day today and for spending the hour with us. So Bill, Brian, thank you guys very much. And thank you for the attendees. And that's a wrap.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for the opportunity. Looking forward to working with everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
everyone.
all. All right.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.